Back with the P-51D. This is the current June Nite, which is from Horizon Hobby. We're gonna go ahead and do a build video. We just did an unboxing. And the only thing we did off camera is we took off the EC3 connector and we put on an XT60 because we use XT60 connectors on the batteries of our choice. So when we get ready to fly, we can get the zippy compacts, which we prefer. But if you use EC3s, just keep your regular. Moving on from there, the assembly is pretty easy on this. We're just going to show you how we do it. It's not hard. It takes just a limited time. You want to refer to the manual so that you don't miss any steps, particularly putting in the carbon fiber rod for the horizontal stabilizer. It's very easy to forget that, okay, because you won't even know, and then you get it all in there and you have to redo it. So this is the way it's going to go together. It's very easy. Everything slides together. The way you can tell up from down is by looking close at the print and then also looking at the holes. So come on up here for a close-up, Esteban. The way you can tell that you're looking at the top is there's a relief cut into this side, whereas there is not a relief on this side, okay? Also, it's molded so that it receives straight through here. We have a little residue from the glue. See this residue is there? That's funny. So then you can slide this on, and once you slide the first one in, you'll see it will slide into this slot nicely. And a little bit of crushing, if you're careful, you won't get any damage at the seam, okay? Then your holes will line up. If you're trying to put it in backward, it will not line up, okay? So then you can just get onto your carbon fiber rod here and then slip it in. And you want to spread out as much when you push on these as you can. Otherwise, you'll get dings and little wear marks and squish marks. Anybody who's built one of these foamies will know exactly what I'm talking about. So if that's not you, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll figure it out. Okay, now come over here, Esteban. This is the control horn for the elevator. We don't know the exact position yet, so we're just going to stick this into the middle. And this is one of those things where the manual will actually answer for us exactly which hole we're supposed to put that. Okay, so we got two screws we got to add in, but first we're going to figure out where the control horn is. It says elevator, goes into the outside hole. Now if you're using Safe Select, you want to use the hole that's designated. If you stick it in the wrong hole, then it won't work right. And there may be other consequences. So in our case, we're going to put it in, do you want to put it in the outside hole or the inside hole?
Outside.
Outside hole. Okay, so we're going to do it per specs for Esteban. On my plane, I usually end up going into the whatever hole makes the most output on the control surface, and that's just the way I do it. And then I actually dial in more expo. So you don't have to do it that way. I'm not saying that's the right way. That's just the way I prefer to do it. Also on rudders, I always do the innermost hole, no matter what plane. You want to show them this here? When I say the innermost hole, I mean this is the outermost, and then this is the innermost, and it already is on the innermost. The reason I do that is because I want maximum deflection on the rudder, because you can use the rudder to help slow the plane down in combination with the ailerons. You can also use the rudder for, yaw control. So, all right, so now that we have that installed, we need to get the screws on. And the screws are very obviously in bags together. So there's two screws. It's very evident from the B on here, because then you can reference to your manual. It says, right on the drawing, you have to use the B screws, okay? So again, the only reason I show you this, some of this stuff is pretty infantile, I know. So I don't mean to dumb this down too much, guys, but that's part of the reason why I really like Horizon, is because they make it easy, okay? And some of you are bound to say, well, you're not building that thing. Of course I'm not building this, I'm putting it together. Somebody else built it in China. So, if I built planes before from scratch, from balsa wood, and those are even kits, so technically I didn't even build those either. I followed a plan. So in this case, you just run these screws in until they're sunk down nicely, and you don't want to crush anything. You'll know, it will be obvious. You'll start seeing the crushing effect on the foam. So you want to give them a close-up of this real quick. So these are almost like a wood screw, so they have a sharp tip on the end, and they don't all have sharp tips like that. So you want to make sure, if it's a machine screw, it's going to be flat and it will look like a bolt. but these look like a wood screw because they're sharp with the tip on them. So now these are in there, just totally in there. The other thing I always do is I always make sure there's a decal is depressed on a control surface. Horizon is really good about that. So we usually don't have to have a big problem with that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get retooled for the next step, and then we'll come right back. Okay guys, so we're gonna come back. The next step is gonna be to put on the wing. Okay, I'm just gonna warn you all, if you plan on doing an XT60 or you know, XT90 or whatever connector you want for your battery, get it done before you put the wing on. It's a lot harder with the wing because it's so wide. At least that's been my experience. So 5/64 Allen wrench. It didn't come with an Allen wrench. It'd be nice if it did, unless it's in this bag and I just haven't seen it yet. We need the bag that says C, as in Charlie, and then we need basically the wing. Okay, so we're gonna flip this plane upside down, and you notice that I use bean bags. Okay, you can get plain stands, and plain stands are great, except that I don't want to buy one, so I'm gonna use a bean bag. Bean bags are great because you can transport in the bean bag, and you can manipulate the bean bag so that everything fits nicely. So I'm just gonna put that there, and that there, and then I'm gonna fix the rug. Esteban always trips over my rugs like 100 times. It's hilarious. So it's his favorite thing to do because he knows it'll drive me crazy. So these wires that were taped earlier, look, they even tie the excess on the gear. This detail, you don't think about it, but say you're making 100,000 of these planes at Horizon. They go through the trouble of tying that knot in that wire. You're never going to get that on a Horizon, on a Hobby King product. You might get it from Free Wing, you might get it from like a Motion RC product. And Motion RC distributes Horizon Hobby too, just so you know. Okay, so I'm just going to slip those wires in loose. And you just kind of got to get your head where you can see. And then you slip this in. And you just hope you got it all lined up. And then once you feel like you're good, I'm running into something here. What am I running into? Okay, it's in now. So that's in. It's not secured yet totally. You can see where all these wires came in now. Okay? So you see all this here, Esteban? So those are the ones we're going to land. So for now, we're just going to go ahead and do all 4 of these. We'll get the first one started and then we'll pause it because watching somebody screw 4 different holes, well, I don't know. I guess there is a market for that, just not this. So we're going to take this. We're just going to do this, and then we'll come right back when we're done turning these 475,000 times. YouTube, we're back. We screwed all 4 holes, and we got them to the point where they're completely tight. And I want to show you something. Do a close-up here, Esteban. You see this pucker, guys? You see this pucker? You will know when you get this thing too tight because it's going to start sucking into the foam. And that, I'm going to warn you, if you don't do it tight enough, you will immediately have problems because your wing will start to release from the body. And I say that to protect you, but you're going to have to tolerate a little bit of that cinching effect that you see in the foam. It sucks, but let me tell you something. I've never had a wing separate. I've crashed into a lot of things, and I've never had a wing come off. I've had wings break off, but delamination here is definitely the small detail you need to tolerate. Okay, so now that that's done, the wing has been physically attached. It's nice and secure. The back wing has been attached. It's nice and secure. This is the other place you want to watch for. If you go way crazy overdone and it crinkles up, you can use hot water to try to fix it, but I wouldn't recommend it. Just live with it. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. So, next step. We've got 3 pieces here. 1, 2, 3 goes in the middle, okay? And then this, the A bag, has the screw that holds the spinner together, and then the nut that is also the standoff that holds all this on. So we're gonna put that together next. Super, super, super easy. Slip it on. One could make the argument that you could set up your radio system right now, because then you could follow all the safety rules and, you know, having your prop taken off. If you're inexperienced in the hobby, maybe skip forward to the video and then come back where you left off on this one. But I'm not wasting my time on that right now. So, because this is an Esteban special. Correct, Esteban?
Thank you, Brian.
That's right. And we unfortunately looked out the window, and yeah, it's still raining. So there's a possibility, even though from your perspective, we will be flying immediately because you're gonna watch both videos back to back. We are unfortunately not gonna be able to probably fly today, which is always a big bummer. When you're building a plane, there's nothing quite like building a plane and then getting out and flying. Use a screwdriver, go ahead and torque this down to stop everything from spinning. And once you get a good purchase on this, you'll know. I can't give you a torque measurement, but you'll know, okay? That ain't going nowhere, except for potentially into somebody's hand, so be careful. This prop is big enough, it will hurt you. You need to be careful. This is a Phillips head screw. This is a free wing screwdriver. Ironically enough, it's a very thin shaft, but it has a good size head. And so you can use that to get into the nose cones, the spinners. Sorry guys, came across very weird. But it works great. If you use the flight test screwdriver, which I was using earlier, this is a great tool. Flight Test, great guys. Check them out on YouTube, obviously. You can see that they have this long, good penetration on this screwdriver. And then this is the crappy Chinese style. But it works really good in certain applications because this is going to be it'll fit and it does work, but it wants to slip. See how it's wanting to slip? So you can get better penetration, better purchase on that screw if you use this screwdriver. So keep the free crappy screwdrivers you get from some of those Chinese planes because they'll come in handy. All right, so we're done with almost all the parts. You can see we're kind of running out of parts. Why don't you come on over here? So if you were to install drop tanks, the installation manual shows putting drop tanks on now. I don't think we're gonna put those on, are we?
Nah.
Okay. And then it says to put C into the D hole. So we're gonna just show you how to do this. This is, I mean, we should probably make a whole video just for this because it's very hard. Watch this, guys. Watch this. Done deal. Now, I don't know if it's supposed to be canted or perfectly straight up. You guys tell me on the comments. And then obviously the canopy can be plopped in here and it goes like that. Now, I want to warn you about this canopy, guys. I've already told you that the paint will pucker over time. Just get used to it. It's not a big deal. You won't notice it in flight, and this thing looks great in flight. Really good in flight. So, what you're going to do is this. Come on up here, Esteban. This is how you get the battery out. You got a tray. The tray has Velcro strips, just like the previous 1.2 meter P-51. The only difference is we have safing. You didn't have safe before. And also, you see this ESC here, guys? It's a little bit bigger. This one happened to be popped up. You'll want to push that down if it's popped up in your plane too, okay? The other thing is this is going under that wood support. If you need more length to deal with different size batteries, just go ahead and work it down under there when you're rebuilding your end. We opted to leave it underneath, okay? Now this thing works great, especially on a 2200 3S, okay? So you basically get this thing placed in here how you would like to use it. And then you're gonna be pretty much centered like this. Guys, we're back again. Sorry, we had a little camera flaw there. So basically, when you slide this in, if you've not used one of these things, and guys, I apologize. I know there's a lot of different people that watch this channel. Some of you know all about this stuff. Please don't give me crap about it because you know you were new at one point. But what you do is you basically slide these through and you tighten them. And that holds your battery pack in. One is not going to do the trick. Two will do the trick. If you want further protection against the battery slipping, then you can use some Velcro and actually attach the Velcro onto this. Okay, I don't personally like doing that. And you'll notice there's still a little bit of slippiness here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna reposition it until we get it exactly the way we want. So you just use it kind of like a belt and then pull it tight, okay? So then that holds it pretty good. It doesn't need to be perfect. You gotta remember, guys, if your plane comes to a screeching halt, you crashed. Okay guys, so we basically just pull it tight until it's tight. I'm not 100% sure. We were having a little camera trouble there, so where we left off, I apologize if we missed a couple of words there. But the whole idea is you want this to be fairly firm in here. Okay, once it's firm and securely mounted, then it slides into the slot. Can you see if you can get an angle in there? It's kind of hard to see. There's this rail. What you're going to do is you're going to just drop the rail in, plastic on plastic, and then this slips in and it clicks, okay? Get whatever voltage alarm you're going to use. All that stuff needs to be done. And then you can stick this in here. And basically at this point, you're going to figure out if your CG is correct. So I'm going to find the page here. This is your page. It shows you where the CG is, 85 millimeters plus or minus 3 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing root. So the wing root is right here, guys. So 85 millimeters plus or minus whatever that is. So I'm going to actually measure it real quick with this this tool like this. So I'm going to go 85 millimeters. There's 85 millimeters. That puts us about here, plus or minus. And then we'll go from here and about there. Now the reason I did a little bump is because you want to test this upside down. Since it's a low wing plane, you're going to actually flip this plane upside down, and then you can find your little bump, and you can see how well you're balanced. Okay, so we're a little bit tail heavy there, so we need to slip the battery forward just a touch, and then this thing's going to balance out. So continuing on a point I made earlier, this thing doesn't need to be perfectly secured, but the better you secure it, the better it's going to perform. Okay, and so there is just a little bit of slop still, so we can take that out once we get it where we want it. And remember, this does have a click. This clicks into like a home position here. See, it clicks. Okay. All right, and then we're just going to flip this over again. And all we got to do is just find that same spot. You can. The reason I make those little dimples in there is because I can feel it with my fingertip. Okay. We're close. We're close. I would not add weight for that. I would probably just sneak the battery forward a hair, and then that'll get us the little bit we need. If you're in doubt, fly this plane nose heavy. It will be better nose heavy than tail heavy, just like most planes. Nose heavy planes have weak elevator response, but they fly okay otherwise. Tail heavy planes crash. Okay. So that's it. We're going to go ahead and wire up the wiring, and then we're going to do the radio setup. So we'll pause it and get ready to do that. Forceps or hemostats. Okay. They clamp. Okay. I get these at Menards. You can get them at tool shops. You can get them online. I'll probably put a link or something. This is a bind plug. If you don't know what that does, that shorts ground to signal, not power to signal, on one designated plug on this AS3X receiver, which is an AR636A. Okay, this is going to plug into here. Okay, just like that. It's keyed, so if you put it in the wrong way, it ain't going to go in. The reason I do that is because now that's plugged in and we can move on to the next plugs. There's aileron plugs, and you're probably thinking to yourself, Brian, how do I know which one plugs in where? And that is a great question. That is a great question. What we're going to do is we're going to grab the manual, and the manual will tell us which port gets plugged into what. Okay, so in this case, they're labeled ailerons, rudder, flaps, all that stuff, and you're like, well, how do I know which one's which? Well, you just got to look. It tells you right here. It says the ailerons plug into port 2. Okay, so the second servo port. Okay, so ailerons have a Y cable. It's a Y splitter for the signal. The brown wire goes down in this case, or away from the readable label on the top of the receiver. Okay, they're also keyed, so you can't put it in the wrong way. Okay, it only goes in one way. Then the next one that we're going to plug in is gear, and that's going to go into the next available opening. Happens to be port 5. Okay, so this little elevator, this is where these things come in so handy, guys. We got to kind of lift that up a little bit, or lift it down. I think I'm going to lift it down, actually. And then same thing, the brown goes down. Okay, and then that goes in there, and then that gives you 2 plugs to plug in each of your landing gear, which are retractable landing gear. And then the flaps, of course, the inboard portion of the wing is the flaps. You're going to take that brown wire down. Of course, guys, this is probably not going to realistically be your first plane, but if it is your first plane from Horizon, you may not know much about these things. So most of you are going to know this, so in one ear out the other, just let it go. The other thing is, look at this, Esteban. You see your antenna right here? Look at this. The antenna is really, really close to where your moving servo is going to be. So you'll want to watch for that, guys. You see that? That is really crappy. I'm going to stick that down in there, and I'm going to make it so that that thing falls back and away from the linkages on the servos. That will help to keep that in good shape. There's another antenna. This is called the diversity antenna. So this one here, that's safe, okay? This one we wanted to protect. So we just kind of pushed it back into this cavity. There's a pretty big cavity back here. All right? So now we have the aileron plugs, the gear plugs, and the flap plugs. And then we have the alternative side, the side that actually goes out to the airplane control surfaces. So I'm just gonna kind of tuck these out of the way, and I'm gonna plug in the aileron plugs first. Doesn't matter what order you go in, just whatever you can get to get the job done. These forceps make everything so much easier, but you gotta be careful not to clamp it onto the wire because you will probably cut through the wires. Okay, so I'm just holding the plastic portion here, and then I push it in, and that's good. And we're gonna actually glue those in with some hot glue. I'll show you how I do that. Hot glue gun, this is pretty rocket sciencey. Hot glue gun, I take and I just put a little drip. That's it, just a little, that's it. Lick my finger, touch it, make sure it's good, it's good. Then I'm gonna move on to the next one. What that does is it stops it from unplugging accidentally under vibration and stress. Okay, here's the other aileron. And this is gonna be a little bit messy, but you can tidy that stuff up a little bit later too. Okay, so I've clamped down on it so I can plug this in. Same thing, guys. Just one quick little drip of hot glue. And if you really wanna make it neat, you'll stick these together with that little bit of drip of hot glue. And then look at that, how nice and tidy that gets. And then you can tidy up all your wiring just in that same way. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna plug these in. It's not rocket science. Now that you've got it plugged in, you're good. I'm gonna show you the other one step. The bind plug needs to be removable. Hey, once you switch to the other side there, Esteban, so people can see what's going on. See the bind plug now? The bind plug is right there. We need to be able to pull that out because we're gonna set it up, but I want to glue in all the rest of these Y cables. So I'm just going to put one little blob of hot glue and just omitting the last port. Nothing special, just kind of push that in where you want it. And then those things will not come out easily, but you'll be able to undo it. So we'll get those plugged in, we'll come right back. Okay folks, so we got it all glued together. We'll just show you what it looks like real quick, and then we'll do just a real quick cable management, nothing too major, because this is Esteban's plane and not mine. Glued together so that they're nice and tidy, and you can see how if you relax the cables together, they're a lot easier to manage. So now, I usually try to do this in like 3 or 4 zip ties if I can, just for the simple fact that you're adding weight every time you add a zip tie, okay? The other thing is predominantly what you're trying to do in cable management is keep away from the antennas so you don't have some huge bundle of wires around the antennas, and then make sure that you're not going to unplug stuff when you're managing your batteries. So I'm going to probably give this one quick rotation and then flop it over upside down, and then I'm going to literally stuff it in the hole. Been a lot of hole stuffing in this video, right?
You have.
It's like just all over the place.
You're kind of into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you know, it happens. So this one wire that went to the throttle, of course that's the ESC, the electronic speed control, which also sends power back to power the receiver. The BEC does that. Okay, so now everything is tucked into that hole nicely. So if we need to get at it, we've only got one zip tie to cut, and we got zip ties to spare. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get ready to do our radio setup next. And so as you can see, the thing looks nice inside and out, and it's pretty much ready to be set up for radio setup. And then this thing will be flying. I mean, if it was nice out, we could be flying in 20 more minutes. In this video series, I'm thinking it's probably gonna be like 45 minutes of total build time and unboxing. But for practical purposes, we had it paused for a few minutes when we were switching out tools and stuff, just so we don't waste as much time on the video. So it could be done in an hour if you're really pushing it. And if you don't have, you know, like your friend trying to film stuff. So, but for real, this thing is beautiful. It looks great. If you were to build this thing from a kit, you'd be talking about months of work. And it would, I mean, it would look good if you spent the time and money, but you'd spend a heck of a lot more than 250 bucks on this beauty. But you can't, I mean, look how good that looks. That is so gorgeous. So, all right, guys, we're gonna do a separate video for the radio setup, so come back for more. Thanks for watching. Check the links in the description below. We'll have a link to this. Just for this video, I might try to find some forcep kits, and I will put that in there because I know I mentioned that for doing the wire management and cable management. Thanks for watching, guys.